Good evening and salutations, my GH fans. This episode was definitely interesting. There's a lot of stupidity in some of these scenes. There was a scene that I felt like it crossed a line. It crossed several lines, and I think everyone at this point knows exactly what I'm talking about. But I want to start off with Trina and Rory because in the beginning, I'm going to be completely honest. I was like, what in the hell is wrong with Trina? First of all, she's getting all upset with Rory because she's all like, oh, well, you arrested my friend Cameron, and something along the lines of, you taking your job too seriously. And I'm like, why are you doing this to Trina? Why are you sitting there making this woman look like a dumbass? The fact that she said, you are taking your job too seriously. A cop, a rookie at that, you actually had the audacity to sit there and say, well, you're taking your job too seriously. What in the... I'm not gonna lie, that actually pissed me off. That genuinely pissed me off. Um, so that was a lot of stupid to handle for a few minutes, but afterwards, after she calmed down and was all like, "Oh yeah, you did give me a soda," and I'm like, hmm. um, they start talking about art, and Trina's kind of, I guess, teaching Rory a little bit about art and what his thoughts on it and this, that, and third. And Spencer, he comes in and he sees, Trina talking about art and everything like that. He gets all pissed off. And he comes in with this smug attitude and they start arguing for a little bit. Rory leaves. And of course, at this point, Trina's just pissed off. Calling him everything from an entitled prick, a spoiled brat. Um, because even Rory was like, oh yeah, the mayor's son, you know, using his connections to sit there and get out of jail time. And of course, when Spencer said, "Oh, well, aren't you trying to do something like that too, or whatever?" It was like, "Bro, are you kidding me?" Um, they get into this whole argument. It doesn't really go anywhere. It's just pretty much more the same. The thing that really sucks is that you can see that Spencer is trying to help Trina. The problem with this whole plan is that it relies on Esme slipping up, and it's like, so your great plan to sit there and exonerate Trina is the hope that Esme f's up. Okay. In the beginning, I almost thought that Spencer was going to mess up his whole plan when he was talking to Cam, um, about trying to get the girls on Esme. But when she came in, she didn't really hear anything. And of course, Spencer tried to use this to his advantage by talking about the fact that he got into a fight with him, over Esme, as far as Cam, I guess attacking her name or whatever. But whatever it was, it was a way to kind of ingratiate himself more into Esme's presence. Now, after that, he does wind up leaving to talk to Trina or to try to, get different hours this way he wouldn't bump into Trina. Of course, at this point, Esme runs, she starts talking to Nicholas. Nicholas is furious. Apparently had this big dinner plan or whatever going on with Ava, and she was like, yeah, don't wait up. So he gets so upset and he flips over a table, and Esme does her usual thing of trying to manipulate him. Oh, she's only upset because of me, and if I wasn't here, I should just go somewhere else. And then she starts laying in on thick, talking about, oh, well, we both don't sit there and deserve to be in a house where we don't feel loved, and this, that, and the third. And of course, Laura comes in, and Laura's like, oh, well, it's a good thing because you can leave now. And she's all like, well, I talked to Sonny. He's not going to go after you. He gave me his word, and I trust him. Nicholas, like a dumbass, is like, whoa, I don't really know about that. And of course, I think Esme is there talking about the fact that, where they're going to live. Spencer isn't really making any money. And I'm just like, Spencer, why don't you just ask for your trust fund back? This way you don't have to sit there and deal with that. But, I don't know what the hell they're going to do, but she just leaves. And of course, at this point, Laura's like, yo, this chick got to go. This chick is poisonous. She is manipulative, like she is poisonous. You gotta get rid of her. But of course, Nicholas, he knows what's best. He's all like, oh, well, Esme just wants to be loved. And I'm just like, this is why a lot of the fans are practically just like, Nicholas and Spencer are getting exactly what they deserve. Hell, even Brock TV said the same thing. And I'm going to be honest, I really agree with them. Um, Now, I want to sit there and talk about Sasha, Gladys, and that soulless creature that kept taking pictures of her while Sasha was there trying to revive Harmony. I'm just like, bro, what in the. I would sit there and say, what is wrong with him? But that would require him actually having a soul. And in this scene, I'm going to be completely honest. There is one point where he gets into it with Sasha, and, because he wants his memory card back. He's like, oh, well, I'm going to sit there and give you a deal. Can either go one way or the other way. And he starts talking about the fact that she's losing it, this, that, and the third, because of her baby. And just the simple fact that he threw that in her face, I was like, wow, this is. I mean, hmm, I don't even know what to sit there and say about. I was actually speechless when I heard him say that because I was like, wow, that takes a certain soulless creature to try to goad a grieving mother over her son. All for pictures and a memory card and this, that, and the third. And the sad thing is that at one point I thought what um Small Set was bad, but this was 1,000 times worse. And I'm gonna be completely honest. I felt like that scene just crossed the line, and I'm really surprised that they even wrote that in there. I don't really know what else to sit there and say about that because when Dante comes in there, Dante stops the fight or stops, Sasha from attacking this guy. And he's all like, oh, well, I'm hurt and this, that, and the third. And, at this point, Sasha, I mean, it's apparent to everyone that Sasha needs therapy. She needs genuine counseling. And, you can sit there and say what you want about Gladys, because Lord knows I've said plenty. But Gladys was there for her. Gladys was there for her. Gladys stopped Dante from really asking too many questions and just, got to the hospital and was just really there for her. And, he's like, oh, well, Brenna's worried for you, this, that, and the third. I'm like, why is no one bringing up therapy? Like, seriously, why is nobody bringing up therapy? You got Kevin on the scene. I'm pretty sure, like, you can sit there and include him in a couple of episodes. Um, Now, later on, after the guy is treated at the hospital, and he's all like, oh, I'm going to press charges, and Dante's like, oh, cool. So we could sit there and investigate that whole, her, pressing charges against you for harassment. This guy calls up Smalls, it's like, oh, I got a story for you. And so, because they run in the same circles, but I'm just like, Jesus Christ. Like, I can't get over that. I really can't get over the fact that they actually wrote that scene in there. I don't. I mean, I know that actors got to sit there and do certain things that they may not always feel comfortable with, but like even as an actor, like how could you sit there and just say a line like that and just be like, all right, cut. Like, how do you feel about yourself after that? Like, I know it's just acting, but it's like I don't even know what to say about that. I really don't. I felt like they just kind of crossed the line, and it was just very jarring to watch. So Michael, Willow, and Dante are supposed to be having some sort of double date or whatever. But at some point Dante brings up Sunny, and of course at that point Willow's like, "Oh, I gotta go to the restroom," and they didn't really get into it too much because Michael was like, "Well, he's changed this, that, and the third," and I'm gonna be honest that the scene didn't really seem like it went too much of anywhere. Um, because Michael was like, "Oh, I'm just glad that he didn't really sit there and try to pressure me one way or the other." And Dante was like, listen, regardless of what's going on with you and Sonny, we're still brothers. I still got your back. Um, like I said, nothing really goes on about that scene except for the fact that Carly does wind up calling Michael to get down to the hospital, which is odd because you had him on the phone, and the whole time Carly is sitting there like, "Yo, you got to go after Harley. You got to go after Harmony. Like she's dangerous for Wiley and Michael and Willow and stuff like that." But the minute that you get Michael on the phone, you don't tell Michael, "Oh, batten down the hatches. Make sure that Wiley's safe because Harmony is a nut job." You're like, "Oh, you got to come to the hospital." Why? To sit there and tell him something that you could have did over the phone? Like even just as watching, even as thinking about that scene was like, what? I'm gonna be completely honest. What was Jordan Smith there doing, questioning, grilling Carly so hard when she should have been out there trying to look for Harmony? The whole time she's like, "Well, what do you know about Harmony?" And it seems like something that you're not really telling me. And what else do you know about Harmony? This is after Carly's like, "All right, well, you know, after Carly tells Jordan about the events that happened, fighting off Harmony, being drugged, Alexis, everything. After telling her all that, you would sit there and think, okay, cool. Well, let me go sit there. But no, she just keeps grilling her over and over and over again. It's like, why? It's like, why isn't they treating Carly like she's the suspect while you got nut job Harmony just out in the loose? Um, Sam came there to, check on Alexis. Um, Alexa's like, oh yeah, I thought she was my friend, and it turned out that she was just a nut job, and so she's just kind of filling in Sam on everything that's going on. Long story short, at some point they all get together, and then they see Harmony being like wheeled into the emergency room. Now Willow is freaking out because at this point Willow don't know what's going on. She's like, what's my mother doing? Is she okay? Who did this to my mother? And at this point, Sasha also comes to the hospital to be checked out or whatever, and she is freaking out. She is filled with guilt. It's she's freaking out, and of course, at this point, she also sees Harmony, being wheeled off into the emergency room. I'm not gonna lie, I was sitting there wondering what wound up happening. In the last episode, I thought it was actually going to be a lot worse. I thought Harmony was going to escape, and Sasha and Gladys was going to be like seriously injured. But it turned out that the only person that was injured was the person that deserved it. So now I want to sit there and talk about Portia and Curtis for a minute because in the beginning I felt like Portia was extremely worried for little to no reason. Like it's not like the bartender didn't sit there and say, or the person didn't sit there and say, oh, well, Curtis is going to be coming out a little bit later. So after that, she gets upset with him for, I still have no idea why she was that upset with him, um, as far as the whole Marshall situation was concerned. But one of the things that she was upset about was, the way that he got the police records because those things were sealed. So obviously he got it in a very questionable way. And that's what she should have been upset with. The other stuff, like there was one point she was like, well, I was upset because, you didn't sit there and loop me in on everything and, what was going on with Marshall. How come you felt like you couldn't trust me? This, that, and the third. And in the beginning, I was like, Portia, I'm going to be honest. I do genuinely like you and you are fine as hell. But in the beginning, you kind of came across as a bit of a nag. Um, But then afterwards, they kind of just made up like nothing really happened, and she kind of just dropped the idea of him getting those police records in this very questionable way. And so it was like, all right, you started off as a nag, and then you asked a very legitimate question, and he kind of dodges around it. He doesn't give you an answer, and then you just kind of let it go, and it's like, okay, you're just all good now. Like, What? I, I am so confused by that whole scene that I was just like, the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, I, what? I feel like that's about it. Now, one of the things I was thinking about today, about Sasha taking therapy and everything like that, is because when this story gets out, by the way, Gladys doesn't haven't really seen the pictures or anything like that, which is another reason why Sasha kept grilling her like, oh well, like where's the memory card and this, that, and the third. One thing I was thinking talking about as therapy is that Sasha wouldn't have had to go through any of this as far as the drug use and the paparazzi being all in her face. Because one of the things that Maxie was really, concerned about was making sure she was ready to come back to work. Maxie has a huge, a stake in this company, with her and Lucy and everyone else. And, they've given Sasha, another chance after the first time that she was on the stuff and, I forgot what was Chase's mother's name, but after that whole thing, got out and everything, they were on better terms. And now with this whole accident and the whole drug use and this stuff comes out, it's gonna look really bad. And it sucks for Sasha that she's going through this. It really is. Um, but as far as this whole company is concerned, the consequences isn't just going to be on her. It's going to be on everyone else. Everyone else that invested in her is going to be on. And that's the part that sucks. Yeah, I feel like that's about it. So, I mean, even with all the stupidity, I still did enjoy this episode. Anyway, with that being said, I'm going to go. I want to thank you for watching. Be safe. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. And I will see you in the next video.